My parents screamed. We should have never had you. I stayed calm. Months later, they were crying outside my house after my final move. You ever sit in your truck after a family dinner and just stare at the dashboard, wondering how the hell you ended up related to these people? That was me last Thanksgiving. I'm 36. Spent the last 15 years busting my ass building my own business from the ground up. HVAC, plumbing, repairs, real work. While my parents kept throwing every dime, every ounce of support, every bit of praise at my little brother. The golden boy. Dude's 33, still living at home, switched majors 3 times, racked up more student debt than I even make in a year. But according to my parents, he's just trying to find his passion. Meanwhile, when I was his age, I was working 2 jobs and sleeping 4 hours a night trying to keep the lights on. And still, every damn holiday it's the same. Why don't you come around more? Family means everything, you know. Sure. As long as I keep my mouth shut, keep bringing gifts, and don't expect so much as a damn thank you. But last Thanksgiving? They crossed a line even I didn't think they'd cross. And that's when I knew I was done playing nice. And listen, I'd dealt with their favoritism my whole life, so I learned to keep my expectations low. It's not like I ever sat around hoping for some big emotional breakthrough. But that night was different. It was after dinner. We're sitting there, my parents, my brother, his new girlfriend, who, by the way, has been living off them for 6 months now, no job, but somehow she's just going through a phase. My dad pours himself a drink, looks across the table at me, and out of nowhere drops it. You know, sometimes I wonder why we even bothered with you. Everything you have, you did to yourself, because we sure didn't give you anything. My mom doesn't even flinch. She chimes in right after, like they've been rehearsing this crap for weeks. We were too young when we had you. If we'd waited, things could have been so different. And my brother? He just sits there grinning, like some smug little prince watching the peasants fight. I didn't say a damn word. I just looked at them, nodded once, and kept sipping my coffee. Because the truth is, they thought they were breaking me down. What they didn't know was that I'd already been planning my exit for months. They just lit the match on their own gas-soaked house. I wasn't going to scream, I wasn't going to fight. I was going to let reality do the work for me. And man, they had no idea what was coming. I think what pissed me off the most wasn't even what they said, it's how comfortable they were saying it. Like I was some old stain they'd been tolerating for too long. But fine. If that's how they wanted to play it, I was done playing nice. See, for years I let them guilt me into staying close. Helping out with bills when they fell behind, covering repairs on their house, even co-signing that damn car loan for my brother because, apparently, he's still getting on his feet. Meanwhile, I was working my ass off. Built my own small business from scratch. I run a mid-size HVAC company now. Nothing fancy, but it pays the bills, pays the mortgage, and I don't answer to anyone. And yet, every single time they needed something it was. You know, family helps family. But if I ever asked for anything? Suddenly, I was selfish. I remember once when my water heater blew out in the middle of winter. I asked if I could stay at their place for a few nights while it got fixed. My mom, dead serious, told me, "We just don't have the space for you right now. Maybe get a hotel?" My brother's girlfriend was literally living there rent-free at the time. That's how little they thought of me. But again, I stayed quiet. Like an idiot, I thought if I kept being the bigger man, they'd see it. Spoiler alert, they never saw it. That night at dinner was just the final nail. That was the moment something inside me clicked. I stopped seeing them as my parents, and started seeing them for what they were, opportunists who only valued me for what I could provide. And once I saw it, man, I couldn't unsee it. I started running the numbers that same night. Every loan, every payment, every dime I floated them over the years. And it wasn't small change. Between cosigns, car repairs, mortgage help, bailing my brother out twice, they owed me well over $90,000. All under the guise of family helping family. But here's where it gets good. Most of it was still technically under my name. The house? I was still on the deed as a secondary lien holder. The car? Registered to me because my brother's credit was garbage. The personal loans? My bank account, my liability. And that's when the plan started forming. I wasn't going to scream at them, demand apologies, or cry for respect that was never coming. I was going to pull every plug, one by one. Quietly. Efficiently. Legally. And when the dominoes finally fell, they were going to learn exactly how much, nothing, I'd actually done for them. The thing is, once you finally stop trying to earn love that was never there to begin with, your brain gets real clear. I started thinking back, connecting dots I'd been too blind to see for years. Like how every holiday was always about my brother. Every single Christmas, birthday, even my college graduation, somehow it always circled back to his struggles. When I got promoted, my mom literally said, "Well, at least now you'll be able to help your brother more." That was her first reaction. Not congrats. Not pride. Just more obligations. And I bought into it for too damn long. But that night, sitting at my kitchen table, whiskey in hand, spreadsheet open, it all finally made sense. They didn't hate me, I was just useful. The responsible one. The safety net. The one they could lean on while pretending I was emotionally distant. My father especially, man, that guy. He'd pull me aside with his fake concerned tone. "Son, you know we love you, but your brother's going through a rough patch. Don't be selfish now, family sticks together." Meanwhile, I'm covering his mortgage while he's driving a new truck bought with my cosign. My mom. She'd guilt-trip me with her little lines like, "We only ask because you're so stable, honey. You're the strong one." Translation, "You're our ATM." The final straw wasn't just the comment at dinner. It was the way my brother smirked afterward, like he knew they'd always side with him. Like I was the fool for ever believing I was anything but their plan B. That smirk, I swear to God, it's burned into my brain. After that, I stopped answering calls unless it was strictly business. I set up meetings with my lawyer and my accountant. I pulled credit reports, asset sheets, lien documents. And yeah, they never thought ahead far enough to clean up the paperwork. Everything they had was propped up on my name. I didn't make a scene. No dramatic family intervention. Just cold, methodical moves. My attorney nearly laughed when I laid it all out. He said, "Honestly? They practically gift-wrapped this for you." I nodded and said, "Good. Then let's unwrap it." From there, I started the slow squeeze. Legal letters, debt notices, repossession filings. All above board, all airtight. They wouldn't even know what hit them until it was already too late. And I made damn sure my brother was the first domino to fall. I wasn't trying to ruin them overnight. No, that'd be too easy. I wanted them to feel it slowly, to watch everything they built on my back start cracking piece by piece. First, it was my brother's car lease. Technically, my name was still attached. I sent the termination notice myself. He called me 2 days later, pissed off like a child who just got his toy taken away. "Dude, what the hell? They're saying I owe full balance on the lease." I stayed calm. "Yeah? That's crazy. You probably should have read the paperwork you had me sign." He started raising his voice, but I cut him off cold. "Listen, not my problem anymore. Handle your stuff like a grown man." Click. After that, it was the house. My parents refinanced a second mortgage years ago. Guess whose signature they needed for approval? Mine. My lawyer filed for full ownership reversal. Quietly. Legally. Clean. By the time they realized the payments weren't being covered automatically, they were already 3 months behind. My mom called, trying her usual tone, half sweet, half guilt trip. "Honey, the bank's been calling. There's some mistake with the mortgage drafts not going through. Can you look into it for us?" I could hear the shake in her voice already. I smiled, but kept my tone neutral. "Yeah, see, that's not my responsibility anymore. You might want to talk to a financial advisor." Silence. Then the voice started cracking. "But we trusted you. This house is your family's home." And there it was again. That word. Family. The same word they used for years to chain me into their mess. I simply replied, "Funny how that works. I thought family didn't need me, remember?" She tried to backpedal immediately. "Don't be like that. This isn't what your father meant." I didn't even bother. "Take care, Mom." Hung up. You'd think that'd be enough. But no. My father had to take one last swing. Few days later he shows up at my job, completely unannounced, like I was gonna cave face to face. He walks in full of fake concern. "Son, listen, I know things got heated, but your mother's struggling. She's not sleeping. Your brother's falling apart. We just need you to step up one more time." I looked him dead in the eye, no flinch, no emotion. "You told me I was your biggest mistake. I'm just honoring that. You got this, right?" And I turned my back on him right there in the office lobby while he just stood frozen, not knowing whether to yell or cry. That was the first time in my life I actually felt free. But the thing with people like them? They don't stop until the ground fully disappears under their feet. And I wasn't about to say them again. You see, years ago, when I was in college, my dad co-signed a few of my student loans. But what he didn't know was that I quietly refinanced everything in my name once I started working, built my credit solid while they kept thinking they still had leverage over me. They loved to remind me how I'd owe them forever for supporting my education. That was their little chain they liked to pull anytime they needed a favor. Not anymore. Now that I was cutting everything off, they started realizing just how little leverage they actually had. My brother, Golden Boy himself, started calling me in pure panic. Man, listen, I know Mom and Dad have been rough, but you can't just leave them hanging like this. They're your parents, man. You're better than this. That little guilt trip tone. Like I was supposed to fall for it after everything they pulled. I took a breath, stayed calm. I already gave them everything they needed for years. They made their choices. You're not calling because you care about them. You're calling because you're scared you finally have to stand on your own 2 feet. And I could hear it, that second of silence before his voice cracked. Dude, don't do this, please. We're family, bro. There it was again. Family. That magic word they used to hide behind for decades while I cleaned up after their screw-ups. No, man, I said. We were family when it was convenient for you. This is called consequences. And I hung up right there. No screaming. No fights. Just calm, ice-cold boundaries. After that, I started hearing from distant relatives. Cousins, aunts, even my uncle who hadn't called me in 10 years suddenly wanted to check in on how I was doing. And every single one of them had the same undertone, guilt. Like maybe if enough people piled on, I'd cave. My aunt even went as far as saying, "You know, I always told your mom she was too hard on you, but you shouldn't punish them like this. They're old now, honey." I almost laughed. Yeah? You stood by for years while they ripped me apart. You don't get to play mediator now. She got all flustered, mumbled something about bridges you can't rebuild, and hung up. That's the thing. People only start caring when they see the fallout coming. They never cared when you were drowning under it. And I was done drowning for them. It all reached a boiling point about 6 weeks after I fully cut them off. Up until that moment, I honestly thought they'd eventually give up and just leave me alone. But you know what? Some people only double down when they realize they've lost control. My parents weren't interested in reflection or apologies. They wanted leverage. So when the money dried up, they went hunting for a different angle. That's when my father decided to play dirty. One Friday afternoon, I get a knock on my door. Not a text. Not a call. They showed up. Both of them, standing right there on my porch like this was some intervention. My father's standing stiff, arms crossed, and my mom already looks like she's ready to cry before we've even exchanged a word. I open the door, stay calm, and my father jumps right in. "Son, we need to talk. This has gone too far." I didn't move an inch. "Go ahead. Talk." He sighs, acting like some victim. "We raised you. We supported you through college. We co-signed everything. And now you're throwing us out like garbage? We made sacrifices for you." My mom chimes in, voice cracking on purpose. "We're losing everything. We might lose the house." And I just stood there, stone-faced. "You mean the house you remortgaged twice without telling me? The one you pulled equity out of to bail out Mark's third failed business? That house?" My father's face turned a deep red, but he still tried to keep the fake moral high ground. "Family supports each other." I gave him a slow nod. "Exactly. You've been supporting Mark while draining me for 15 years. You made your choice. I'm simply living with it." My mom starts sobbing right there, full performance mode. "We thought you loved us." I cut her off before she could spin it further. "No. You thought I'd never grow a spine. Well, surprise." And with that, I calmly closed the door in their faces. I watched from the peephole as they stood there for another minute, hoping I'd open again. My dad whispered something harsh to my mom and pulled her away. They walked off like defeated politicians leaving a failed press conference. But I knew that wasn't the end. Not with people like them. And sure enough, 3 days later, I get a certified letter in the mail. A lawyer. They were now trying to claim they were owed part of my current income based on parental investments they made years ago. My father actually tried to build a legal argument that the money they spent raising me was an investment, and therefore entitled them to my financial success. That's how twisted this had gotten. My first reaction? I laughed. I sat there in my living room, reading that ridiculous paperwork, actually laughing out loud like some maniac. My lawyer, who'd already been briefed on my parents' level of crazy, just shook his head when I showed him. "They're desperate," he said. "This won't even hold up in small claims court. But it does give us something useful, more proof of harassment." And that's when it clicked for me. They weren't going to stop until I made them stop. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about control. So I let my lawyer handle the paperwork, but quietly, behind the scenes, I started making moves they didn't see coming. Because if they wanted to escalate, I was going to end it once and for all. Now here's where it started getting real ugly. You'd think after that stunt with the lawyer letter, they'd feel embarrassed enough to back off. But nah. Narcissists don't know how to back off. When you've spent decades controlling your kid, the idea that he finally cut you off doesn't sit well. They got more desperate. Word started getting back to me from extended family, cousins, aunts, old family friends. Apparently my parents were now running a little smear campaign. Classic playbook. They spun this whole sob story about how their ungrateful son abandoned his aging parents who sacrificed everything for him. My phone started buzzing with these weird passive-aggressive texts from people I hadn't heard from in years. Stuff like, "Family is all we have, don't forget who raised you." Or my personal favorite, "Your parents only wanted what's best. You've changed." Yeah. No sh*t I've changed. I grew a backbone. But here's where they slipped. One of my old uncles, who's always been more neutral, gave me a heads up that my father was trying to leverage some old tax documents. Apparently, my dad thought he could threaten me by hinting at some paperwork he helped me with years ago when I was starting my business. He made it sound like I owed him for some kind of backroom deals that honestly never even happened, pure fabrication. That's when it hit me. These weren't just emotional attacks anymore. This was full-blown blackmail territory. I got my lawyer involved immediately, and we pulled every single financial record from day one of my business. I wanted every receipt, every signed form, every wire transfer. I wasn't playing defense anymore. I was building my offense. The entire time I was collecting this stuff, I acted completely unbothered on the surface. My parents kept trying to bait me, more messages, more third-party, family guilt trips, even a few drive-bys past my house like teenagers. I let them spin their wheels while I quietly locked down every legal angle. My lawyer prepped a full harassment file, along with cease and desist letters, and documentation to counter any legal threat they thought they could make. And brother, when you hit a narcissist legally, you hit them where it hurts the most: public exposure. The real kicker came 2 months later when my father, in one last desperate attempt to corner me, tried to sit down with some mutual business contacts. He thought he could poison the well, paint me as this unstable, vindictive son cutting off his poor helpless parents. What he didn't know was that one of those contacts was an old client of mine who owed me big. That guy recorded the whole conversation and handed it over to me within 24 hours. My father, on tape, fully admitting to trying to manipulate me financially and slander my name. I remember sitting there with my lawyer listening to it. We just looked at each other and I said deadpan. And that's game. We now had full legal grounds to hit them with harassment, defamation, attempted extortion, and malicious interference. My lawyer nodded and smiled. "We move at your signal." And that's exactly what we were about to do. I waited a full week before I pulled the trigger. Not because I was hesitant. Hell no. But because I wanted to make sure everything was airtight. My lawyer drafted up the full cease and desist package, attached with the harassment report, the recordings, and the financial breakdown proving zero wrongdoing on my end. We even attached a copy of the slanderous text they'd sent to extended family, the drive-bys caught on my security cameras, and my father's little, private meeting, fully transcribed. When you move against people like this, you don't give them room to wiggle. You drop the full weight, clean and surgical. The letters were served on a Tuesday morning. And I'll tell you, that's when the panic started. My mother was the first to call. Of course she was. Crying, gasping, trying to play the victim card. She went full Academy Award. "How could you do this to your own parents? After everything we've done for you?" I stayed calm, voice flat as stone. "No, Mom. After everything you've done to me. Actions have consequences." She tried to backpedal, sobbing into the phone, blaming Dad, blaming her anxiety, saying she never wanted any of this. I just cut her off. "You both made your choices. You burned this bridge." And I hung up. 15 minutes later my father called, but he wasn't crying. Nah, he was pissed. "You think you can destroy your own family over some childish grudge? You think this makes you a man?" I let him vent for a minute then answered. "No, Dad. What makes me a man is finally standing up to you. You don't own me. You never did." I heard him start to shout again, but I hung up mid-sentence. Done. The paperwork was already filed. Within 48 hours, their accounts started freezing. The investigation into my father's shady side deals triggered some serious banking red flags. Turns out, all those years of helping the family business involved a lot more financial gymnastics than anyone knew, and the IRS doesn't like gymnastics. My lawyer coordinated with federal authorities and their financial guy, who, by the way, flipped instantly when we presented him the recordings. Full cooperation in exchange for immunity. Classic move. By the end of that first week, my parents were sitting on a financial bomb that was ticking faster than they could comprehend. Friends stopped returning their calls. Their little social circle started whispering. And when the first legal notices arrived at their front door, my father finally broke. He called me one last time. His voice shaky, desperate this time. "Son, please. Don't let them take everything. This can ruin us." I paused. Cold. No emotion left. "You ruined yourselves." Click. That was the last time I answered their calls. But trust me, it wasn't the end of the fallout. Not even close. Within 2 weeks, the real storm hit. The IRS audit wasn't just some paperwork headache. No, this was surgical. Every shady business expense, every offshore wire transfer my old man thought he was smart enough to hide, it all surfaced like rotting fish. And the worst part? Half of it was tied directly to my mother's name, too. Joint accounts. Co-signed loans. She wasn't some innocent bystander in all this. She was up to her neck in it right alongside him. The day their assets officially got frozen, I got wind of it before they did. My attorney shot me a quick heads-up email. "They're cooked." And man, I'll tell you, I sat back in my chair sipping coffee, just staring out the window for a while. Years of being told I was worthless, a failure, a mistake. And now? Now they were finally facing consequences for every ounce of poison they poured into my life. But they weren't done trying to manipulate. That evening, I got a knock on my door. I wasn't surprised to see my mother standing there, disheveled, red eyes, trembling hands clutching some manila folder like it was a life raft. She didn't even wait for me to invite her in. She started talking right there on the porch. "We made mistakes," she said, her voice cracking. "But family forgives. We can fix this, son. If you just withdraw the complaints, we can negotiate. Think of the family name. Think of your father's health." I let her finish. I stayed silent for a few seconds, made sure she was done laying out her guilt trip. Then I answered calm, steady. "You thought nothing of family when you called me your biggest mistake, Mom. Don't talk to me about loyalty now." She tried again, voice rising, almost hysterical. "But this is your blood. You'd let your own parents be ruined?" I raised an eyebrow. "You ruined yourselves. I just stopped covering for you." And I shut the door in her face. I heard her breakdown start as soon as it clicked shut, sobbing, heavy breathing, muttering under her breath. I didn't open it again. The next day, my father made his final desperate move. He showed up at my workplace, waiting outside like some lost man. My coworkers saw it. A few of them pulled me aside later and said, "Dude, is that your dad? What the hell is going on?" He was pacing, sweating, completely cracked. The man who used to bark orders at me like I was dirt was now clutching his phone, his voice shaking as he begged. "Please, son, one meeting. Just give me one meeting. We can work something out." I walked right up to him. Looked him dead in the eye. "There's nothing left to work out, Dad. You gambled with your family's future. You lost. I owe you nothing." His face went pale. He opened his mouth to protest, but nothing came out, just some dry rasp, like his throat gave up too. Security stepped up, ready to escort him out if he made a scene. He glanced at them, then at me one last time. And I turned and walked back into the building like nothing happened. No rage, no satisfaction, just done. But even after that, brother, the collapse still wasn't finished. The real public humiliation? That was just around the corner. About a week after that scene outside my office, the real hammer dropped. And honestly, I can't pretend I didn't enjoy watching it. See, once the investigation went fully public, things got messy fast. Local business journals ran headlines about questionable financial practices tied to my father's company. Some of his old golf buddies and business associates started pulling away like rats leaving a sinking ship. I got texts from people I hadn't heard from in years, old family friends, ex-coworkers, all of them suddenly curious, pretending to check in. Yeah, right. They just wanted the inside scoop on the fall. And the funniest part? My parents still tried to keep up appearances. My mom even posted some fake smiling photos on Facebook like everything was fine, some nonsense about taking a break to refocus on what truly matters. Meanwhile, their bank accounts were locked, their house was under review, and subpoenas were landing in the mailbox daily. But the real public blow came at a charity gala they used to sponsor every year. You have to understand, this event was their pride. They loved walking in like royalty, shaking hands, flashing fake smiles, pretending to be the benevolent power couple of the city. This year? They still showed up, desperate to save face. My father walked in with that forced confidence, nodding to people who barely nodded back. My mother clutched his arm like she was bracing for impact. And impact came fast. Halfway through dinner, one of the board members, a guy I knew well, stood up and made the announcement that the organization would be formally cutting ties with my parents pending legal outcomes. You could hear the room freeze. My father's face? I'll never forget it. Stone cold for a second, then pure panic as whispers started flying around the tables. My mom looked like she was trying not to vomit right there. People averted their eyes, some even got up and walked away mid-conversation. They were radioactive now. And the best part? I was there, sitting at one of the sponsor tables, invited by the board as a guest of honor for contributing to the same organization, under my own company's name. My father locked eyes with me from across the room. He tried to hold his stare like he was still in control, but I didn't flinch. I just calmly lifted my glass in a small, almost surgical nod, not a smirk, not gloating, just letting him know that this was the end of the road. After the event, as people were leaving, I caught snippets of conversations. Phrases like, "I heard they're being investigated, he's completely broke, they might lose the house." That's when you realize, reputation doesn't just collapse, it gets devoured. The next morning, my phone lit up again, 17 missed calls from my mother, 11 texts from my father. All some mix of desperate apologies, half-assed explanations, and thinly veiled manipulations to sit down and talk. I didn't reply. Not one word. They were spiraling fast now. And trust me, brother, it was still far from over. 2 weeks after that disaster at the gala, the full weight of everything finally crushed them. Their assets got frozen pending investigation, the house they loved so much, gone. Auctioned off in public like some cheap furniture lot. And trust me, I kept tabs on every step, not out of spite, no. It was clarity. It was closure. Watching the people who once looked me dead in the eye and said I was their biggest mistake, now lose every single thing they used to hang over my head, it does something to you. One morning, around 8 a.m., I'm in my home office, coffee in hand, checking emails, and my security system pings. Motion detected at the front door. I pull up the live feed, and there they are. My parents. Standing on my porch, side by side, like two ghosts that didn't realize they were already dead. My father looked like he hadn't slept in days, hollow face, tie hanging loose, hands buried in his pockets trying to hold some shred of dignity. My mother? Red eyes, clutching a little gift bag like she was showing up to some damn birthday party. I didn't even open the door. I watched for a moment, let them knock, let them ring. Then my father speaks loud enough for the mic to catch. "Son, please, we need to talk. Things have gotten complicated." Complicated? I actually laughed a little. The same man who spat that I was a mistake, now standing here like a man drowning. My mother chimed in, her voice shaking. "We made some wrong choices. But we're still family, honey." Family? Now they remembered the word. I could feel the anger try to bubble up for a second, but I shut it down. Not worth it. I grabbed my phone, texted security. "Do not open the gate. No engagement." After standing there another few minutes, knocking like lost tourists, they eventually walked back to their car, a beat-up old sedan that I knew wasn't theirs. Probably borrowed or leased after losing everything else. That was the last time I saw them face to face. They've tried since, emails, letters, even mutual contacts calling to arrange a conversation. But I'm done. Completely done. Not out of hate, you lose the taste for revenge after a while. It's simply about peace. About not letting people who tried to break you back into the life you rebuilt without them. They had their say all those years ago. I've had mine now. And the difference is, I didn't have to scream mine. I let life do the talking.